All right. I think we're recording. This is Michael Devellano from Cloud Advisory, and we help companies with linked funnels. So we help them prospect and reach out to their ideal client every day on LinkedIn. And I've been talking this week to my friends who are experts in creating compelling video content. And this is the granddaddy of them all. I've had two great conversations, but now I got Dave Feinman. And thanks for jumping on, Dave. I always appreciate your insights.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. This is our second time doing this, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here.
You were a previous guest on the Automate and Grow podcast.
Yeah, which was amazing.
Highly rated and regarded.
The best in the world.
I've been talking, as I mentioned, to persons such as yourself on the topic of creating compelling content, but specifically for like native LinkedIn content.
Right.
And I guess what I'd like to get feedback on from you is even just, kind of 2 or 3 points that you guys want to hit on, because your company, Viral Ideas Marketing, is it Viral Idea or Viral Ideas?
We just call ourselves Viral Ideas. We think it sounds cooler. So
okay. You are in the business of basically creating compelling video content. It's the best way I can describe it, where you tell a company's story using video and primarily on digital channels, I think.
Correct. Almost exclusively on digital channels, actually.
So I guess when you're creating content for a client, the stuff I'm kind of interested in is to understand what are the key things that you're trying to hit on.
Yeah. So I'll kind of walk through it. I mean, there's definitely a big strategy behind it when creating video. So, I think we might have talked a little bit about this in the podcast, but when focusing on video, you want to really focus on the 3 stages of the funnel. So that's awareness, consideration, and decision. And there's different types of video for each individual stage of the funnel that really allows your customers to kind of move through this customer journey with you, and allows you to get your point across. So, one of the things that I think a lot of people get wrong with video is that they don't necessarily have a plan before they're creating, right? They're just kind of winging it and putting together some shots and everything, but you really have to be very purposeful, especially if you're creating content for your LinkedIn audience, which is really all your personal connections. You want to make sure you're super purposeful with what you're getting.
There's definitely a different culture on there for sure. I think it's evolving, but it's still, in the end, it's like all business, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of it too. Like one of the biggest things we've seen with our clients, like even across like the mid funnel stage, across the consideration stage of things, is them doing a series of FAQ videos, right? And helping people understand what are the questions around your business that you can answer. And those questions, right? Like let's say you have a niche audience, and let's say you have a certain audience on LinkedIn, especially if you're running a lot of campaigns simultaneously on LinkedIn, to be able to show, a sub pocket of people, a specific piece of content around a question that they might have, works really well.
That's interesting. So, because for example, I know that in Sales Navigator, you can begin to categorize, like tag different people that are tagged as leads, and then you can further create custom sub tags. So is that kind of what you're talking about, where you would filter it down and then only directly message them to promote the content, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm talking about like a pure news feed kind of LinkedIn
news feed
post, right?
Oh, yeah.
As far as like going into messages, from a video perspective,
probably tougher.
It's tougher, but there are tools out there that you can use to create sales ready video where you could just speak directly to a person in LinkedIn chat.
Right, like a dub or something that's like 1-to-1, you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. There's one out there. I think Wistia just released one. I think it's called Soapbox. I haven't had a chance to try
That's it. I've actually, I just recorded a video on Soapbox. It's actually
really? How was it? I haven't checked it out yet.
I'm trying to understand the differentiation between Soapbox and Dub, and then there's another one that I've been testing out. They all do a little bit different things.
And I know Wistia's great with analytics.
And the other one's Loom. And I know it's a little bit diversion, because what you're talking about is like, I create a custom video for you and then send it to you.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess in the thick of it, like I don't want to kind of get too off track with everything,
No.
but if you're focusing on awareness, consideration, decision
Yep.
on LinkedIn, you're really releasing videos around your topic, becoming a subject matter expert amongst your group of people. And then if the situation does arise, like I know through what we were talking about, through what you do through LinkedIn link funnels, you're
Right.
really sending out all those individual messages. And if a couple get back to you that it could be, possibly strong leads, it might pay to take 5 or 6 minutes and make, a nice little video through Soapbox. It might even
That's
take you that long. It might take you 2 minutes to make a little Soapbox video, on camera. That way they can see your face and connect with you.
It's interesting is when we're reaching out to an ideal audience, we kind of end up with like 3 or 4 buckets. There's like the greater amount that we kind of attempt to connect with and invite to connect with you.
Which is your in the video world, that's kind of like your awareness videos. It's your about us. It's, you're showing this broad audience something so they get a snippet of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, that's interesting actually. So I think what we could do is test that and see. It might be tough to do that at scale because you're usually connecting to a couple thousand people a month. But then within that, there's the people that add you back. And that's probably 600 to 800. And then there's like the ones that say no to whatever you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I still believe that usually we kind of don't worry about them immediately because there's no urgency and we don't want to like antagonize them. We want to keep them as connections. But what you're talking about is interesting, which is doing one-to-one video.
Correct.
And I think, it kind of puts a thing in my head that would be worth testing, which is I create a one-to-one video for you that leads to my other content that tells my story. And I refer to it as the story of why, which is like the video where you talk about the motivation of starting your business. It's like the problem you're solving and what caused you to do the unique thing that you do.
Exactly.
That's interesting. That's an interesting approach.
Yeah, well, you have to stand out somehow, and if it's a high valued lead for you, right? Like you want to take advantage of the opportunity. We used to do it internally at Viral. Like we would make little pitch videos for people, and it increases your response rate, everything. So
that's great. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's more kind of like at the decision phase, even though maybe they're not making a decision on your product just yet. They're still making a decision on whether they should talk to you or not.
And that's what I think you're doing on LinkedIn is trying to initiate a conversation. You're not going to sell on LinkedIn in the end.
Well, if you can get, your however many thousand LinkedIn followers to see a piece of your video content, whether it's coming from you or coming from the company, you're gonna become someone that's repetitively in their feet and someone that's repetitively involved with them. And then when you're ready to go kind of slide into those LinkedIn DMs, you'll have your LinkedIn message, and you could pair it with a video. I'm not saying it's scalable to do it for everyone.
No, that makes sense. That's smart because then once you get down to those subsets, you're not dealing with thousands. You're dealing with 30 to 60 or 80 a month. So it's a little bit more manageable. Where even if you say no to me and I send you a one-to-one video back, I might turn that into a warmer connection, right? It's like, hey, thank you for your message back. I appreciate you letting me know. If you know anybody that has this problem, this is what I solve, and here's an example of the content that I put out around it. Let me know your thoughts on that. I'd love your feedback, and then you could direct them to what you're talking about, which is okay. Well, now I've kind of achieved the awareness stage, right? And then what was after the awareness stage?
Consideration.
That's what I thought. Okay, so then consideration means, I think in the terms of LinkedIn, is probably, do I want to talk to this guy or not?
Exactly. So you're seeing someone pop up in your feed, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, is this someone worth 10 minutes of my time or 20 minutes to talk to?
That makes a lot of sense.
So a lot of people just ignore the message to begin with because they don't know who you are. But a lot of what we've seen work well too is even doing a generic intro video of yourself. It's a little more polished, maybe that could be included with that first message.
See, I think one of the powerful things about LinkedIn, as opposed to like, let's say I'm cold calling you or I'm sending you a cold email, there's no face to the name.
Exactly.
On LinkedIn, you're going to check me out. And if, to what your point is if I can go beyond just a profile picture and, my resume, so to speak, I can also make a live video. That's actually kind of interesting. Or even like you said, like a consistent video that I send out that's reusable. I like that.
Exactly.
And then what was the third stage of the buyer journey as you define it?
So I define it as decision. So that's kind of when you're ready to make the decision. And I would say in the context of LinkedIn, that decision is not necessarily a buy. It's a decision of, hey, do I want to book this appointment with you? You know,
That makes
in the
sense.
appointment, that's really where your sales process starts, right? You're kind of hunting. You're the proverbial hunter, and on LinkedIn, kind of shooting at your targets, kind of figuring out who you want. And then once you reach that final phase of like, hey, I'm about to get this person to be able to jump on the call with me, that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
where you really, want to use maybe some of that personal touch type videos, through leads, or even you could do something that's a little more canned and generic to get people over the edge.
Yeah, that's great. I like that concept. I had talked about last week a customer journey that was maybe one step extra, but I think that makes total sense.
Yeah,
Which is I'm trying to get them to the point where how do I tell my story when I'm not one-to-one with them, so that I
exactly.
can be one-to-one with them.
Exactly.
So in your video campaigns, you guys are obviously a little more produced.
Yeah.
Um, Talk about, I guess, produced versus unproduced content and your thoughts on
Yeah. Well, so I actually feel very strongly about both these topics. So over the past 3 years with Viral Ideas, we've made over 1,000 videos, all incredibly well produced. But we've noticed a huge shift in content to people wanting to rapidly, create content with their phones, right? We're all a couple
Right.
deep in their phones, or even kind of, working with some freelancers, and they don't necessarily need stuff that's kind of scripted in a way. They just need stuff that's kind of done. So we actually built out an entirely separate company called Fixation that does
Mm-hmm.
just video editing. So we've actually seen a push of people, obviously still needing that produced content that kind of delivers a really targeted, specific message, but also that kind of, unguided, unscripted, kind of off the cuff, do it yourself type video, but maybe that still needs a little bit of editing at the end. So, I see a lot of companies doing it, and I see a lot of companies doing it well. I also see a lot of them doing it quite poorly, but it's not as easy as like the end product at all, to shoot and edit a video. But it's definitely something that, unpolished versus polished. There's room for both in your strategy.
So a couple of things that are in my head that I've been trying to explore, and maybe you can give me your feedback on it. One is when I'm producing content, for example, for YouTube, that generally, when people talk about content on YouTube, it's not just the video.
Right.
There's usually this element that they talk about the thumbnail, the description, and the title. They don't talk about the tags, which is interesting because apparently the tags are not really considered part of the piece of content. And now that's because of the unique platform, probably about discoverability. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to decide, do videos on LinkedIn need a thumbnail? Do they need an introduction? Is there a format? And I guess your thoughts on length.
So, okay, so let's start with format. So format kind of has to align with your overall marketing strategy. So if you're doing a thumbnail, make sure it's something that aligns with your brand, aligns with what's in the video. So the most actually important factor, if we're talking specifically about the platform of YouTube, the most important factor for your video to get viewed and for them to spread around is watch time. YouTube wants you to hang out for a while, which means
Right.
they want quality videos that people stick around for. So, if your title tags and description and thumbnail don't match the level of content in your video, your watch time will actually go down because people are kind of have some mismatched expectations of what to expect. So definitely doing all of the mechanics and making sure that your video is delivered in kind of like a smooth way on whatever platform you're doing, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, just making sure you have all those key elements in line.
So I think the primary means of posting video on LinkedIn is really through the post, right? Like the feed.
Yeah.
I mean, I know and you can boost those, but I don't know if there's any other, I guess you can do it in groups, right?
You can do it in groups. Well, I know you can release a YouTube video, which was kind of like the old school way of doing it, where you just kind of put up a YouTube and the link would
Right. Yeah.
pop.
Syndicate it. Yeah. And
Uh,
what's interesting about that is like, I guess natively, which I didn't realize, videos on YouTube, on LinkedIn are 10 minutes or less. So you can't upload more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So anything longer format, you either have to direct them somewhere else or split it up or embed the player.
Well, you can even do a format where, you say in the description, hey, here's the first 10 minutes of it. It's a teaser. Drive them to your site or to YouTube, wherever you're hosting it. Your site would even be better. And if you're able to push them to your site and host it through Wistia, something like that, that way you can capture the data through Facebook and then, retarget them with the next stage of your campaign.
And that's interesting too, because when you're talking about that buyer's journey, I think you can use pixels on Facebook. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there not a pixel on LinkedIn? But then you'd have to spend money on LinkedIn ads, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not too plugged into the LinkedIn pixel.
Yeah, look at that.
I don't think, I'm not sure if it's a thing, but I also don't know. So
we're going to find out.
We're going to find out.
One more question to ask, but
sure.
So as far as, I guess what's in my head, obviously if we're talking native content, which is kind of what I'm focused on right now. I'm thinking that there's a benefit to being native on LinkedIn right now. They're going to send you a bunch of traffic if you do the right things. We talked about like those 3 stages of the customer's buying journey. And I guess what I'm trying to get my head wrapped around is, even though it's a business platform, how entertaining do we have to be?
I don't think you can be boring. I mean, if someone's so I think there's a couple of reasons people scroll through LinkedIn. So I think the first one is just to kind of check out what their business connections are doing. I think it definitely skews more salesperson looking at LinkedIn than anything else. But people are, I'm just kind of basing off of data that I have and a couple of friends. People do have their clients and people who aren't necessarily salespeople looking through it. So if you start there, it's people that are just kind of like, sitting at work, kind of wasting a little time, right? So if you can waste it, like in my opinion, if you can kind of, the scroll of LinkedIn, if you can either provide some sort of, entertaining piece of content, number 1, or informative piece of content, number 2, I think you'll win, because people either want to learn something or be entertained by something.
That's kind of what I'm trying to debate with. Like, for example, I have this idea, and I don't know how crazy it is. Have you seen Between Two Ferns by Zach Galifianakis?
Oh my God, yeah. Did you see the one with him and like Barack Obama?
That's crazy. And then he did another one with because he was on Jerry Seinfeld, and they did an episode after. It was kind of like attached to Jerry Seinfeld's show. Yeah. But what it got me thinking today when I'm at Vid Summit, so I'm watching all these YouTube content creators, and I don't know what triggered it, but I was like, what if there was like a Between Two Ferns with like a business talk show host that's totally old and clueless, and all of let's say it's my clients or your clients are interviewed. So part of the benefit of doing,
I would have like my grandfather interview experts on various topics.
So like, what's this face block machine?
I don't know. I think
it's asking really crazy.
It's a fun concept, but it also I feel like with entertainment content on LinkedIn, you have to teeter the line of being.
Maybe it's a very serious platform.
You have to provide I don't want to say this line because it's I think it's oversaid, but you have to provide enough value to
yeah, I know.
To make people continue to watch it. And
what was in my head was
let me dive into value because I always hate saying that. Value to me is, in the context of video, means that someone is entertained, informed, or educated about a given topic. So those are essentially if you wrap up any piece of content that anyone ever consumes, it's usually wrapped up in those 3 blankets.
Right.
So
here's definition of those 3 things. It doesn't have to be the whole strategy, but it would be kind of interesting where if you use satire, where the host is the joke, but the client is the one trying to educate.
Yeah.
It almost gives you another opportunity to educate someone on either a new concept or an existing business, right? Because if you had a host that was just so clueless like Zach Galifianakis is, where he's now he asks pretty offensive questions, but it would most be
yes, very offensive questions.
It's almost like your FAQ.
Yeah.
And it's the dumbest question you can get. It's no, that's not it.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
Yeah, it's a thought.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also probably have a pretty serious one.
Yeah, you could do like a totally serious show as well. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of possibilities. At the end of the day, you could sit there and like try to concept and ideate all this stuff out, but it's worth it to just give it a couple shots, right? Like
Yeah, I agree.
if your show or your whatever you're doing changes over time, you just have to make sure you kind of stay true to whatever brand you want to be.
Right.
If you don't want to have your brand voice being like a goofy thing like Zach Galifianakis, that's fine. Like Viral's brand voice, if you watch a lot of our stuff, a lot of it's like, fun loving, entertaining, but still intellectual. So like, if you watch a lot of our stuff through our YouTube, you see us having fun, but you also see like little nuggets of like really palpable information throughout all our material. And that's how, if you interact with us, in person and in real life, that's who we are. So at Viral Ideas. So you want to make sure whatever content you're making in whatever way you structure it aligns with who you are as a brand, so that when people, finish out the funnel, the funnel actually should be just something part of your overall brand experience when someone interacts with you. So when you're thinking about creating these videos, you're actually thinking about creating and designing an experience for someone from the start of the interaction to the end of an interaction. And the end of an interaction is hopefully them becoming a customer. So you want to make sure that the customer experience is also aligned with your videos. So it's actually a much broader conversation than just putting out videos. You want to make sure everything kind of, travels down the same road.
So one thing we keep referring back to is really this process of getting marketing qualified leads. And to me, at the end, that means there's some sort of an offer to connect. And I don't know if, I guess what needs to happen is we probably need to experiment with what that is on LinkedIn for native. Because I don't think there's mechanisms built in. Like YouTube, you can make clickable parts of the video, right? I can link it to another video, or I can, have a giveaway. I guess I'm curious about your thoughts on that, what might work, and what we're going to start having to test stuff out, I guess, once we start posting things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really like a little undereducated with like native LinkedIn right now. So, but as far as like the tried and true, just kind of putting up, an ability for someone to make an appointment with you, like phone number, typical call to actions that you'd see anywhere else on the web.
That makes sense.
Are good places to start.
And is that normally like on your videos, are you building in calls to action, or is it more?
A lot of it's done in the mechanism in which the video resides in. So if it's in YouTube, you're running kind of like, a couple things. But also you might want to run a deal or something within your actual video. So it just kind of behaves natively. So you're not like, people, a lot of times people will read the description and then decide if they want to watch the video. If your whole description is a sales pitch, maybe they don't want to watch the video. So, a lot of it, you kind of have to teeter on the line of like, you don't necessarily need a call to action for everything. So, I recently was kind of looking at some studies and, advertising on Facebook, if we're just talking about that platform specifically, or even LinkedIn, creates a lift throughout everywhere else of your product sales, but it might not be directly attributable to Facebook. So you might wonder like, oh, where did this spike in traffic come? If you're running Facebook ads, or, where did this traffic spike come from? I'm running a LinkedIn ad every day. But actually that attribution and that kind of lift in sales is actually coming from the fact that you're just getting your brand out there more and more to more eyeballs. It might not be a call to action and conversion in the actual discovery period. It might be something where someone Googles you later and, it's attributable to Google organic, but it actually came from LinkedIn or Facebook. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at your data. Like you want to make sure that, that first touch is still considered, because if you're looking at doing a program and investing in it, your first touch actually leads to your last touch. So you want to make sure, whatever you're doing in first still gets some play. Because if you pull that out under the rug, you might lose your conversions down the funnel.
That's a good point. That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay. And I'm just out of curiosity, I'm just looking, and there's some sort of concept. I'll have to do another post on LinkedIn conversion tracking. So I think they have some sort of a concept of an insight tag, and I'm not sure if that's like actually a pixel or something else. So I'll have to like do some research and post another video.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when we're talking, you start realizing how powerful that is, where it's like someone can just watch a piece of content and then you direct them to something else by retargeting them, right?
Exactly. That way you can, you can create all these chains throughout Facebook. If someone watches, your first video, so long of it, you can then show them another video. You can really create, entire schematics of, places, basically just like a whole funnel for people to ride down and just see your product in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm definitely, I commit that after this, I'm going to do some research and I'll report back to everybody, including you.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm a little, on that particular subject, I haven't played around too much. So,
Well, listen, I want to be conscious of your time. Is there anything else that you think would be really critical for someone to understand if they're, starting to think about a content strategy around video?
yeah, just have, for content strategy, just actually think about the strategy, think about what bucket it's going to fit in,
Yeah.
and like give it a little thought before you create your videos. It'll actually make you more likely to create the videos too, because a lot of times you don't want to get started on it because you have to be in this video, you have to all of a sudden you have to put on your acting hat, and it's a little tough. But if you understand where it fits in strategically, at the end of the day, you're trying to create, I like to think marketing anymore online is a series of creation of assets.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're really doing that, then it's worth the time and investment.
That's great. Listen, I appreciate your time and your insight. This is, I think, very helpful. I'll commit again to doing some more research on the technicalities of the platform so we start understanding that. I look forward to talking. Maybe I'll actually get to see you soon. Are you coming to California at all?
I'd love to at some point. Yeah.
All right. So this has been David Feinman and Michael Devellano, and we've been just talking about native, compelling content on LinkedIn. And I will follow up with further information on this, more specifically around the technical aspects. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thank you.
See you later.